My sister slept with my boyfriend in college, so I cut her off. Years later, she demanded an invitation to my wedding, and my mom threatened not to come if I refused. You know that gut-wrenching feeling when you think you've finally found your perfect piece, only for a past betrayal to come roaring back, threatening to shatter everything? Well, that's exactly where I found myself. I thought getting engaged to Daniel was my fresh start, my happily ever after, but it became the catalyst for a family showdown I never saw coming. Daniel and I had been together 4 amazing years when he proposed, and honestly, it felt like my life was finally clicking into place. He's everything I ever dreamed of: supportive, kind, patient, hilarious. After some really tough years battling family drama and trust issues, our relationship felt like this incredible, serene harbor. So, when we started planning our wedding, I was absolutely determined to make it a day overflowing with joy, love, and, most importantly, peace. Little did I know, my mom had a completely different vision. My family, bless their hearts, is complicated. It's not the screaming at Thanksgiving kind of dysfunction, it's more the insidious, sweep everything under the rug kind. My mom, in particular, despises conflict so much that she ironically creates it by trying to force everyone to get along. She'll guilt trip, she'll cry, she'll manipulate, all in the name of keeping the peace. And this entire mess, this war over my wedding, it all started with my older sister, Sarah. Sarah and I used to be incredibly close, especially when we were kids. But everything changed irrevocably during my junior year of college. I was dating Derek, my first real boyfriend, the guy I genuinely thought I'd spend forever with. We dated for 3 years, even talking about getting engaged after I graduated. I was young, naive, and I trusted him completely. That trust wasn't just broken, it was absolutely obliterated when I discovered Sarah had been sleeping with him behind my back. For how long? I still have no idea. But this wasn't some one-time mistake. This was a full-blown, undeniable affair. The absolute worst part wasn't even the betrayal itself. No, that honor goes to Sarah's reaction when I confronted her. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She just shrugged, looked me in the eye, and said something like, "Well, if he cheated on you, maybe you weren't enough for him." Those words? They're seared into my brain. I cut her out of my life that very day, and we haven't spoken since. Derek and I broke up, obviously, but the damage Sarah did to my trust and my self-esteem lingered for years. My mom, on the other hand, saw it completely differently. To her, the whole thing was just some petty sisterly spat, like we'd fought over a borrowed sweater. Men make mistakes, she'd say. Sisters shouldn't hold grudges. I tried, I really did, to explain how profoundly it had hurt me, but she just brushed me off, calling me an overreactor and insisting that family is forever. Over time, I realized she was never going to take my side, so I just stopped talking about it. I focused on building my own life, far away from Sarah's toxic shadow. Fast forward to now. Daniel and I were deep in wedding planning mode, and I was so excited to celebrate this milestone with the people who genuinely, truly cared about us. We kept the guest list small, about 80 people, and I had absolutely zero intention of inviting Sarah. She wasn't part of my life, and I wasn't about to let her ruin this special day. But the moment my mom found out about the engagement, the pushing started. "Are you going to invite Sarah?" she asked, as if it were a given. When I said no, her reaction was immediate and dramatic. She gasped, looked at me like I'd just told her I was canceling Christmas, and declared, "You can't do that. She's your sister." I tried to calmly explain my reasons, but she wasn't listening. She immediately launched into her usual guilt-tripping tactics. "How do you think this will make the family look, and do you really want to create more drama by leaving her out?" The sheer irony of that last statement was not lost on me. I told her I wasn't changing my mind, but she absolutely refused to back down. Over the next few weeks, the calls and texts became relentless. She even roped in a couple of aunts and cousins to try and convince me. They'd send me passive-aggressive messages like, "It would mean so much to Grandma to see the whole family together," or "You don't want to regret this later in life." The final straw, the one that truly broke me, was when Mom threatened not to come to the wedding if I didn't invite Sarah. She tried to frame it as not wanting to take sides, but it was so transparently manipulative. It hurt more than I expected. I love my mom, even though she drives me absolutely crazy sometimes, and the thought of her not being there just broke my heart. But at the same time, I couldn't let her bully me into doing something that would fundamentally ruin my day. Daniel, bless him, was an absolute rock through all of this. He told me it was my decision, and that if my mom couldn't respect my boundaries, that was her problem, not mine. His support solidified my resolve. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I told Mom I'd think about inviting Sarah, just to get her off my back for a little while. But instead of sending Sarah an invitation, I sent her a letter. I laid everything out as clearly and honestly as I could. I told her how deeply her betrayal had hurt me and how it had impacted my ability to trust people. I explained that my wedding day was about celebrating love, trust, and happiness, and that having her there would only dredge up painful memories. I also made it crystal clear that this wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about protecting my peace. I told her I didn't hate her, but I also didn't feel close to her, and I saw no point in pretending otherwise for the sake of appearances. Sarah, predictably, did not take it well. She sent me a flurry of angry texts, accusing me of being petty and immature. She said I was making the family choose sides and letting an old mistake ruin our relationship. My mom, of course, immediately took Sarah's side. She called me, crying, saying Sarah was devastated and that I was tearing the family apart. She even threw in, what kind of person excludes their own sister from their wedding? At that point, I was emotionally drained. I told Mom I wasn't going to argue about it anymore, that my decision was final. She didn't like that answer and kept trying to guilt me, but I just stopped responding. It simply wasn't worth the stress anymore. The wedding day arrived, and honestly, it was absolutely perfect. Sarah wasn't there, and while Mom gave me the cold shoulder for most of the day, I didn't let it ruin a single moment. I was surrounded by people who loved and supported me genuinely. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly at peace. Daniel and I had an amazing time, and looking back, I wouldn't have done a single thing differently. But now that the wedding is over, the fallout has officially begun. Sarah has been posting vague, passive-aggressive things on social media about family betrayal and how some people never move on. Mom keeps sending me long texts about how disappointed she is in me and how she's never seen Sarah this upset before. A few relatives have even reached out to tell me they think I made the wrong decision. Part of me, a small part, still feels a pang of guilt, but a much larger, stronger part of me knows I did what was best for my own mental health. I've spent years rebuilding my self-esteem and trust after what Sarah did. I wasn't about to let her ruin one of the most important days of my entire life. But still, I couldn't help wondering, am I wrong? Should I have just invited her to avoid all this drama? Was it selfish to put my own feelings first, even if it meant upsetting my family? Update 1 It's been a few days since I first shared my story, and I've been absolutely blown away by your responses. Thank you, truly, for taking the time to read and offer your thoughts. I've read every single comment, and honestly, it's been incredibly eye-opening. Some of you shared similar experiences, and it helped me feel so much less alone in all of this. For those who thought I was too harsh, I understand your perspective too. It's complicated, and I appreciate all the input. Since the wedding, things have continued to simmer, and I genuinely feel like I'm caught in a tug-of-war. My mom hasn't let up. If anything, she's doubled down on her disappointment. I received a ridiculously long email from her 2 days ago, and it was a lot. She reiterated she's still heartbroken about the whole situation and kept emphasizing how I've caused a rift in the family. The email was peppered with lines like, I don't even recognize you anymore, and this isn't the daughter I raised. She also brought up Sarah's feelings again, saying how much I've hurt her and how Sarah is apparently devastated that I shut her out. The tone of the email was this toxic mix of guilt-tripping and emotional manipulation. She kept mentioning how she was losing sleep over the whole thing and how she'd been getting calls from extended family members who were concerned about my behavior. Honestly, it felt like she was deliberately trying to paint me as some kind of villain who's intentionally out to hurt Sarah and the family. That couldn't be further from the truth. After reading it, I just sat there, staring at my laptop for a while, trying to decide how to respond. Part of me wanted to fire back, to defend myself with every fiber of my being. But another part of me knew it wouldn't do any good. My mom has always been this way. Once she gets an idea in her head, there's no changing her mind. I decided to keep my response short and calm. I wrote back and said that I was sorry she felt that way, but I stood by my decision. I reminded her that this wasn't about being cruel or vindictive. It was about setting boundaries and protecting my mental health. I told her that I loved her, but I simply couldn't keep rehashing the same argument. I thought that would be the end of it for now. But I was wrong. My mom forwarded my email to Sarah. How do I know? Because Sarah responded to me directly with another lengthy email, and this one was even worse than Mom's. Sarah called me bitter and immature and said I was clinging to the past instead of trying to move forward. She accused me of being obsessed with playing the victim and said I was destroying the family dynamic for no reason. She even had the audacity to claim I was being unfair to her because, according to her, Derek was the real villain in all this, not her. That part really got to me. Yes, Derek was a liar and a cheater, absolutely. But Sarah knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't some innocent bystander who got caught up in his web of lies. She made a conscious choice to betray me, and she's never once taken accountability for it. Even now, instead of apologizing or acknowledging the hurt she caused, she's trying to make me feel guilty for not letting her sweep it under the rug. I didn't respond to Sarah's email. I just couldn't. I've spent years trying to move on from what happened, and engaging with her now felt like reopening an old wound. But it's clear she's not letting this go anytime soon. Yesterday, she posted another cryptic message on Facebook about how people show their true colors when they think they've won. A few of our mutual relatives commented things like, "You're better off without toxic people," and "Some folks just can't handle a strong woman." It's so obvious who they're referring to, and it's just exhausting. Meanwhile, my mom has been playing both sides, as usual. She's still talking to me, but our conversations are tense and uncomfortable. She keeps bringing up Sarah in little, subtle ways. Like, I had coffee with Sarah yesterday and she's really struggling. Or, I just wish you could see how much this is hurting her. It's like she's trying to guilt me into reaching out, but I'm not taking the bait. I've been polite but firm, reminding her that I'm not ready to reconcile and that she needs to respect my boundaries. Whether she actually will or not remains to be seen. Daniel has been an absolute rock through all of this. He's encouraged me to focus on our new life together and not let the drama overshadow our happiness. He even suggested we take a short trip to get away from everything for a while. And honestly, I think I'm going to take him up on that. A little distance from the family chaos might be exactly what I need right now. One of the hardest parts about this whole situation is the mixed reactions from my extended family. Some people have reached out privately to support me, saying they understand why I made the decision I did and that I shouldn't feel guilty. Others have taken Sarah's side, either directly or indirectly, by sharing those passive-aggressive social media posts or making snide comments during family group chats. It feels like everyone has an opinion about something that really isn't their business. The most surprising part of all this is how little I actually miss Sarah. You'd think that after years of estrangement, a big event like a wedding would stir up some kind of longing to reconnect, but it hasn't. If anything, this whole ordeal has just confirmed that I made the right choice in cutting her out of my life. She's shown me time and time again that she's not willing to take responsibility for her actions or respect my feelings. And I'm done trying to force a relationship with someone who clearly doesn't care about the damage they've caused. That said, I can't pretend this hasn't been emotionally draining. I'm tired of feeling like I have to justify my decisions to everyone around me. I'm tired of being painted as the bad guy just because I chose to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. And I'm tired of my mom treating Sarah's feelings like they matter more than mine. At this point, I'm not even sure how to move forward with her. I don't want to cut her off entirely, but if she keeps pushing, I might not have a choice. So, here's where I'm at now. I'm standing firm in my decision, but the backlash has been harder to deal with than I expected. I'm trying to focus on the positive, my marriage, my supportive friends, and the life Daniel and I are building together, but the family drama is still a dark cloud hanging over everything. Update 2 asterisk. It's been a whirlwind since my last update. I honestly thought things might settle down after a few days, but instead, they've escalated in ways I didn't expect. At this point, I feel like I'm stuck in the middle of some soap opera I absolutely did not sign up for. I'm just trying to hold on to my sanity while navigating the chaos. The first thing that happened was a surprise package from Sarah. I wasn't expecting it at all, so when I saw her name on the return label, my stomach just dropped. For a second, I debated not even opening it, but curiosity, that damn cat killer, got the better of me. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small photo album. The letter was long, several pages, and to my surprise, it wasn't angry. Instead, it was this strange mix of an apology and a justification. She started by saying she was sorry for how things had turned out between us, and that she regretted how much pain she'd caused me. But then it pivoted. Hard. She started explaining her side of things, claiming she was in a dark place at the time of the affair and didn't fully understand the consequences of her actions. She wrote about how she'd always felt like she'd been in my shadow growing up and how Derek had given her the attention she craved. It was almost like she was trying to make me feel sorry for her. The letter ended with her saying she hoped we could put the past behind us and start fresh. The photo album was even stranger. It was filled with pictures of us from when we were kids, holidays, birthdays, random, forgotten moments. Some of them made me smile, a bittersweet ache, but most of them just made me sad. It felt like Sarah was trying to remind me of the bond we used to have, but instead, it just highlighted how incredibly far apart we'd grown. I don't know if it was a genuine olive branch or just another calculated attempt at manipulation, but either way, it left me feeling utterly conflicted. I showed the letter to Daniel, and he was, as always, cautious about the whole thing. He reminded me that while it's good to acknowledge Sarah's feelings, I don't owe her anything, especially if I'm not ready to reconcile. He suggested I take some time to process it before deciding whether to respond, which was, honestly, solid advice. For now, the letter and the album are tucked away in a drawer. I'm not sure what to do with them yet. While I was still mulling over Sarah's package, things took another turn. My mom decided to escalate her campaign in the most dramatic way possible. She called a family intervention. I wish I were kidding. She sent out a group text to me, Sarah, and a handful of relatives, declaring she wanted us all to meet at her house to talk things out like adults. I didn't even know how to respond. The idea of sitting in a room with Sarah and a bunch of people who've already picked sides felt like walking straight into an ambush. When I told Mom I wouldn't be attending, she absolutely lost it. She called me immediately, crying and begging me to reconsider. She kept saying things like, "We're a family, and families don't turn their backs on each other." I tried to explain, again, that I wasn't ready to have that kind of conversation, and that forcing it would only make things worse, but she wouldn't listen. She insisted she was doing this for my own good, and that I needed to stop being so stubborn. In the end, I didn't go. I spent that afternoon with Daniel instead, trying desperately to distract myself. But the fallout from skipping the intervention was brutal. Mom called me afterward to let me know, in no uncertain terms, how profoundly disappointed she was in me. She said everyone else showed up, even Sarah, and that my absence was absolute proof that I was the one keeping the family divided. She accused me of being selfish and unwilling to move on, and then, before I could even respond, she hung up on me. If that wasn't bad enough, I started getting messages from some of the relatives who attended. One of my cousins texted me saying, "You should have been there." It was really healing for Sarah. Another aunt sent me a long message about how I was being stubborn and cruel for refusing to give Sarah a chance to apologize in person. Apparently, Sarah cried during the meeting and talked about how much she missed me and wanted to make things right. Some of the family is now acting like she's the victim, and I'm the heartless one for not letting her back into my life. I can't even describe how frustrating this all is. It's like no one cares about how I feel or what I've been through. They're so focused on this picture-perfect, idealized version of family unity that they're willing to sweep everything under the rug, no matter how deep the betrayal. I've been labeled the villain for simply standing up for myself, and it is exhausting. At this point, I feel like I'm losing my relationship with my mom entirely. She's gone from being disappointed to just outright cold. She barely talks to me anymore, and when she does, it's clipped and passive-aggressive. She even skipped a lunch date we had planned last week, claiming she wasn't feeling well, but I know deep down it was because she's upset with me. It hurts, it really does, but I'm trying to remind myself that her behavior is a reflection of her own issues, not mine. The one silver lining in all of this has been the unwavering support from a few close friends and, of course, Daniel. One of my best friends came over the other night with wine and snacks, and we spent hours just talking. She reminded me that I'm not crazy or unreasonable for setting boundaries, and that it's absolutely okay to prioritize my mental health. It was exactly what I needed to hear. Still, I can't shake the guilt entirely. Part of me wonders if I'm being too rigid or if I should at least try to mend things for my mom's sake. But then I think about how much effort I've put into healing over the years and how much it would set me back to let Sarah back into my life without a genuine apology and real accountability from her. And honestly, I just don't think she's capable of that. So here I am, caught in the middle of a storm I didn't ask for. I'm standing firm in my decision, but the pressure is relentless. My mom is distant, Sarah is playing the victim, and some of the family is siding with her. It's like I'm constantly defending myself for choosing peace over chaos, and it's utterly exhausting. I keep asking myself if I'm doing the right thing, but deep down I know I am. Now I'm just wondering how to move forward. Should I write Sarah back and try to explain myself again? Or would that just open the door to more manipulation? And what about my mom? Is there a way to salvage our relationship without compromising my boundaries? Or is it a lost cause at this point? I'm trying so hard to focus on my new life with Daniel, but the weight of all this family drama is really hard to ignore. Thanks again for sticking with me through all of this. It helps more than you know to have a place to share and get feedback. Update 3 asterisk. It's been about a week since everything spiraled, and I finally feel like I can breathe again. So much has happened, and while I'm not proud of how messy things got, I'm incredibly relieved it's over. This will probably be my last update because I've made a decision that I know is final. I've chosen my peace, and I'm not looking back. After the family intervention and Sarah's ridiculous letter, I tried to keep my distance. I focused on work, spent time with Daniel, and avoided my phone as much as humanly possible. But as you can imagine, the drama didn't just stop because I ignored it. My mom kept calling and texting, insisting that I at least hear Sarah out. She even offered to have a smaller, more intimate sit-down with just the 3 of us, saying she was worried the larger intervention had been too overwhelming for me. I refused again, politely, but firmly, and thought that would finally be the end of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Last weekend, Daniel and I hosted a small dinner with a few close friends. It was supposed to be a low-key fun night, good food, good company, absolutely no drama. Everything was going great until my phone buzzed with a notification from Facebook. I normally wouldn't check my phone during dinner, but some primal instinct, told me to look. And I'm glad I did. Sarah had made another post, and this one was the most targeted yet. She wrote something along the lines of, "It's sad when people can't move on and keep holding grudges over the past. At some point, you have to ask yourself if they're just jealous or still hung up on what they lost." I felt my stomach drop. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind that she was talking about me. And the insinuation that I was still hung up on Derek made my blood boil. First of all, Derek is the last person on earth I'd ever want to be with again. Second, Sarah's attempt to spin this narrative of me being jealous or bitter was so utterly ridiculous, it was almost laughable. But what really got me was the fact that she was escalating things publicly, dragging our dirty laundry out for the entire world to see. I showed the post to Daniel, who immediately suggested I block her and just be done with it. He was right, of course, but something inside me just snapped. I was tired of Sarah trying to control the narrative, tired of my mom enabling her, and tired of being made to look like the villain when all I'd done was protect myself. For the first time in years, I decided to confront Sarah directly. The next day, I called my mom and told her I'd meet with her and Sarah. Not to reconcile, I explained, but to set the record straight. She was thrilled, absolutely ecstatic, thinking this was my way of mending fences, and eagerly set it up at her house. I didn't bother correcting her. My goal wasn't to fix anything. It was to finally say my piece and be done with it. When I arrived, the tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. My mom greeted me with her usual mix of warmth and nervous energy, clearly hoping to play peacemaker. Sarah, on the other hand, looked utterly smug, like she thought she'd already won. She didn't even wait for me to sit down before launching into her usual spiel about how much she missed me and how family is too important to let one mistake ruin everything. I let her talk, biting my tongue until she finally paused, clearly expecting me to agree or apologize. Instead, I calmly asked her about the Facebook post. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she doubled down, saying it was just a general observation and that if I felt attacked, maybe it was because the post hit too close to home. She accused me of being obsessed with the past and suggested that my anger was less about her betrayal and more about me being unable to let go of Derek. That's when I lost it. I told her, in no uncertain terms, that this had nothing to do with Derek and everything to do with her complete and utter lack of accountability. I reminded her that she was the one who made the conscious choice to sleep with my boyfriend, knowing full well what it would do to me, and that she'd never once, not a single time, given me a real apology. Instead, she'd spent years painting herself as the victim and using our family to guilt me into forgiving her. I told her straight up that I wasn't interested in reconciling with someone who couldn't even admit they were wrong, let alone take genuine steps to make amends. Sarah tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. I turned to my mom, whose eyes were wide with shock, and told her I was done with the constant guilt-tripping and emotional manipulation. I said I loved her, but her refusal to respect my boundaries had pushed me to a breaking point. I made it clear that I wasn't cutting her off entirely, but I needed space and wouldn't be engaging with any more family interventions or forced reconciliation attempts. If she wanted a relationship with me, she'd have to accept that Sarah was simply not part of my life. At this point, Sarah started crying big, dramatic tears that I'm sure were meant to make me feel guilty. She kept saying things like, "I've tried so hard to make things right, and I don't understand why you hate me so much." But the tears didn't move me. They felt performative, like yet another attempt to manipulate the situation and turn it in her favor. When it finally became clear that I wasn't going to budge, Sarah's demeanor shifted. She got defensive, accusing me of being cold-hearted and unwilling to forgive. She even threw in a snide comment about how it must be nice to feel so perfect all the time. At that point, I just laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh you let out when you realize there's absolutely no point in arguing with someone who refuses to see reality. I stood up, told them both that I was done, and walked out. Driving home, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. For years, I'd carried the weight of this drama, constantly questioning whether I was doing the right thing and whether I owed Sarah or my mom something more. But in that moment, I knew I didn't. I had tried to explain myself, tried to set boundaries, and tried to move forward, but they weren't willing to meet me halfway, and that wasn't my fault. Since then, I've blocked Sarah on every platform, and I've told my mom I'll be taking a break from family events for the foreseeable future. I don't know if she'll respect that boundary, but I'm prepared to enforce it if she doesn't. Daniel has been my absolute rock through all of this, reminding me that I have every right to protect my peace and that I'm not a bad person for walking away from toxic relationships. The irony is that I don't even feel angry anymore, just relieved. For the first time in years, I feel like I can focus on my own life without the constant shadow of family drama hanging over me. I have an amazing husband, a supportive group of friends, and a future full of possibilities. Letting go of Sarah and the part of my family that refuses to respect me feels like shedding a heavy weight I've carried for far too long. To everyone who's followed this journey and offered advice, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your comments and insights helped me see things clearly and gave me the courage to stand up for myself. I don't know where things will go from here with my family, but for now, I'm at peace with my decision, and that, to me, is worth everything. Am I sad that it had to end this way? A little, yes, but mostly I'm just relieved to be done with the drama. Life is too short to spend it tied to people who only bring you pain, no matter how much they claim to love you. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. Here's to moving forward.